Hello and welcome to Digital Thursday. My name is Sarah Richey, and today we are going to be focusing on the flipped classroom and looking at some of the techniques and roles of the teacher as well as the student within there. If you get a chance at the end of the session, please, on the same page that you logged onto the YouTube link, there is a link for an Excel survey. Just a couple questions to see how the session went and what we can do to some suggestions for improvement or comments on the session itself. Make sure as we get settled in that you have one tab open with the YouTube channel so that you're watching us on the video, and as well as one in order to collaborate with us. I'm going to give you a minute to get settled in, and I'm going to flip screens and get started on the presentation. So as I said, you are able to collaborate with us during the session. You can use the document link that was provided by your principal, in which in there's a little tab that says join the conversation. You can go in there and be able to talk with us there. If you're comfortable with social media such as Twitter or Yammer within Office 365, you can go in there and ask your questions. Just make sure to end your question with the hashtag DPChats so that we're able to find your questions and answer back. Remember that you do not need to take notes during the session. The YouTube channel stores every session, so you can go back and rewatch. And the YouTube channel is DPCDSB Chats. So as I said, today we are going to be discussing the flipped classroom. And we're going to be taking a look really solely at how that changes the responsibility of the students within the classroom. When we're thinking of the Catholic graduate expectations and helping our students reach their full potential as learners, two of the CGEs that stand out are self-directed, responsible, lifelong learner, as well as a responsible citizen. And this is really in the first initial part of it. The students within the flipped classroom model, they really have to take ownership of their own learning, and they find that learning begins to have a purpose in which they are actively engaging in the content itself. At the same time, since they're actively engaging with the content, they need to find and critically evaluate their own resources and be able to develop their own personal learning journey with the content itself.
Every day, 7.2 million students walk into classrooms throughout the United States. These classrooms generally look the same. 30 students sit in rows of desks, taking notes in their notebooks, while the teacher stands at a whiteboard teaching a lesson. Regardless of ability level, each student receives the exact same information at the exact same pace. As Ms. Jackson presents the same material, the students respond differently. Tommy gets it, while Allison is bored, and Maria is lost. At the end of the day, these same students head home. While at home, they sit at the kitchen table doing their homework and trying to remember what Ms. Jackson said. Students like Tommy make it most of the way through the homework, while others, like Allison, find it easy and fly through it. At the same time, students like Maria get frustrated and need some extra help. Ms. Jackson recognizes that students have different needs and would love to work individually with each student, but this requires time and resources that her school does not have. One solution to this problem is the flipped classroom. Here's what it looks like. While at home, students sit in their rooms watching videos of the lesson that Ms. Jackson assigned. Tommy is still able to work at his normal pace. Allison is no longer bored because now she can use this new technology to fast forward through the easy material. And Maria is no longer frustrated because she can review the material that she didn't understand by pausing and rewinding. When she really gets stuck, she can get help from her classmates. New technology platforms like Moodle and Edmodo make it easy for her to chat online with her classmates. Just as the homework is different, the classroom is different as well. Instead of standing in front of the room speaking, Ms. Jackson walks around the room. She checks in with Tommy as he works collaboratively with some students. She pushes Allison further with some more challenging work. And she helps Maria with the pieces that she still doesn't quite get. In the traditional model, the teacher stands between the students and the knowledge. But with the flipped classroom model, the students have direct access to the knowledge, and the teacher serves as a coach, mentor, and guide, helping the students access this knowledge. The flipped classroom leverages technology in a way that lets both Miss Jackson and the students make the most of their time and efforts.
So just reviewing that idea, when we think of the idea of the flipped classroom, we're changing our direct instruction. So we're taking that direct instruction and we're moving it from the group learning space into the individual learning space. So now the students are taking the content, they're learning at home, and this transforms the classroom itself. So the group space now moves into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator is able to guide the students and apply the concepts and being able to engage. So now they're becoming the coach itself. So outside of the classroom, students are watching videos, demonstrations, tutorials, possibly engaging with simulations and games. And when they come back within the class, they're now working within collaborative projects, individual or group problem solving, as well as peer-based learning activities. One way we can begin working within the flipped classroom is screencasting. So how do we provide students with direct instruction at home? One tool that we're going to suggest to begin with is EduCreations. When beginning to screencast, the first tool that we suggest that you try is EduCreations. The reason that we like EduCreations is because it can be found within our iPads in our schools, but as well as it is a web-based tool, meaning that we can use EduCreations from any device, whether it be our students' pets, the laptops, the desktops, anything that may be provided that you can get onto the web. This is a great tool to use, and we'll show you why when we head inside. So when I click into EduCreations, the first thing you see me open up into is the library. The library is where my lessons are stored. The free account allows you to hold up to 500 megabytes. So you won't be able to hold an entire year's of lessons, but you will be able to create possibly a unit or a theme within there. When you see the little plus sign up in the left-hand corner, that is the ability to create a new lesson. Here you see up at the top, you see that little pen drawing tool in the colors. This is a drawing tool, so I can use on the iPads itself my finger to be able to draw on the white screen and be able to show my thinking, as well as them hearing what I'm saying. I can write down what I'm saying. If I'm working through a math problem, if I'm cutting apart a paragraph and talking about the grammar and conventions, then they'll be able to hear my thinking behind it, as well as see what I'm doing with the paragraph and how I'm pulling it apart. If you press down on the colors itself, you're able to change the palettes. So I can go and then change colors if I feel that I want something a little bit different. The plus sign here within the whiteboard, it tells me that I can add things onto my screen. So when I press the plus up here, I can see that I can add text, and I can tap anywhere on my screen and be able to write it. The pointer that's now highlighted beside the plus tells me that I can move my text to wherever it is I want on my screen. The plus sign also allows me to add in a picture, and I can choose to add one from my camera roll, so something that's already downloaded onto the computer itself or onto the iPad. And I can then place it into there, and I can move it around. You can see the pointer has changed as well. Or I could as well just decide to take a picture in the moment of whatever it is that's important, right? So it obviously is, it depends on what you're doing. Maybe if you're creating something, if you're analyzing, if they're doing experiments and you want them to show the different parts, or if something's happening and you want to document it, you may use it for this. I find that that tool itself is good for when the students are making their thinking visible from something they're doing in the classroom. But at this point, it depends what you're doing. If you're creating something and you want to see every step of the way, you may use that picture function as well. Either way, it gives you a pocket full of multimedia that you're able to add into there and enhance your lesson so the students can go back and understand the content before they come into class and begin to engage with it. Up at the top here, you see a microphone. So this microphone, when I press on it, you can see that the time starts to go. This is saying at this point that now it is beginning to record what I'm writing on the screen, whatever it is I am saying at the moment. And if I choose to add something, it'll pause and I can add my picture in through my camera roll. And then I can continue back. So it gives me that little moment to continue going. When I am done and I want to review, I can play it, I can review, I can go back, I can trim parts, I can see what it is I was doing. Just from that, I can play it and listen to it. What I'm writing on the screen, right? So it gives you that idea, and I can edit and I can trim it. Usually the main function is clearing the voice and the annotation at this point and going back and redoing some of it. When I press done, I also know, and I'm gonna, at the bottom you can see again, there was the arrow. I can continue adding my slides, as many as I want, and I can choose to duplicate the page or duplicate the page with the ink that's on it. So if I just want to keep adding my pages that way, I can do that. Also, you see at the top, there's a little symbol here with lines on it, right? This tells me that I can change my background of my drawing paper. So whatever it may be, I can choose to change that. And as well, when I'm done everything, there is another little sign over here that looks like a rectangle with an arrow. This tells me that I can then save. So I can save a draft if I want to come back to it and do it later. I can do it that way. I can also choose to finish it and then save it to my library. It'll automatically go in here until I've used up my 50 megabyte. If I want to share it with my class, at this point I've already created one, so I say add to, and I have my tech coaching co-planning in here that I can add to. And you see that it has multiple people. So the one below the single icon is where my class is situated. All the lessons that I've done, if I wanted my class to see them, or my course, so if you're teaching multiple courses, you can choose which lesson is put in which course, and the students wouldn't be able to see your whole entire library. They'd just be able to see specific ones. So here, the students that were enrolled in here would need to go in with the code, and then they'd be able to view all the lessons that were placed within that class. When you are beginning, you can also go down to this little star feature. This star feature has math, science, language, social studies, languages, creative arts, computers, and health lessons already, they're already set up within here. So if you want to be able to view them or use them, you can do so as well. So if I take a look at one of them, I'll open it up for you. Just so we can see and get a nice
secondary break. To start secondary break, the 2 starts with the ball, free throw line extended beyond the 3-point arc. The 2's first look is into the post to the 5. If the 5 gets the ball, he looks to score. If the 5 is not opened, the 5 comes over and sets a screen for the 1. Once that screen is made, the 3 flashes ball side free throw line. As the 3 flashes, the 1 comes off the screen and goes weak side. As this is happening simultaneously, the ball is passed to the 3, the 4 and the 2 release. The 3 makes the pass cross court to the 4. The 4 looks first option into the post to the 1. Okay. If the 1...
I'm just going to stop there, and I think you get a sense of, first of all, the students, if they are engaged with this, sorry, I kind of stopped there. So when we're taking a look at here, I think that when they are engaged with it itself,
When beginning,
sorry, let me pause that for you. When they're engaged with the screencasting itself, then they're able to go back and review. So we're just going to look at some tips for screencasting. You get a sense of what it looks like within the program itself, but how do we design that screencast?
when beginning to screencast, one of the most important things is being able to choose your software and deciding what's best for you. So think about what you needed to do. And the one thing that we're highlighting here is EduCreations. So choose your tool. Here I've chosen to use EduCreations. And you can see now I'm writing in the moment. And I think it's important as we begin thinking about it, you need to make a plan. So you can see I have a couple things already down in here. I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to say to you. I've made a plan knowing what I want you to think about when creating a screencast for your students. Choose your tool, make a plan, decide, create a script or a storyboard that really helps you speak and talk to the students about your lesson along the way. As we move along, important, set up your slides, but practice. Move over your slides. Decide, make sure that everything works and that your examples make sense when you actually say them out loud and that it runs smoothly together. When you are ready, I want you to begin recording. Move back through your lessons and begin to talk about what it is you're saying. You can use the tools, you can add your text, and you can see as I open things up and use tools, it says my recording is paused while you add the contents. If I want to add something, it automatically pauses it for me. I go back in, right? I can begin to write and decide whatever it is that I'm doing. When you are done, you can stop your recording. When you play it, down here, so you can beginning to screencast. The most important part, so you can see that it's repeating kind of what it is that we're saying. At this point, you can see at the bottom that you have the ability to edit and trim. So if I want to cut parts out of what I said to you, I made some hiccups along the way, maybe I stumbled along my words. As an educator, you could change this and move back. But remember, don't worry too much. It doesn't have to be perfect. When you are choosing your tool and beginning to screencast, you're going to stumble along the way, you're going to make some hiccups. As a teacher, when we're in front of the class, we do the same thing. So polish it up to the best of your ability. Don't spend too much time on it. Just have a plan, just as you would when you're teaching, and know what you're going to go through, and then you're going to be able to teach your lesson. When you're ready, you save the finished video. You create the title of whatever it may be that you are working on. Save it into your library. When you do want to add it to your class, I just held down on my screencast that I just made for you, and I'm going to add to my folder within here. You can see here that all of your students would come to the EduCreations on the web. They would then type in the class code, and they'd be able to come up with the class lessons and a set of them. You have up to 50 megabyte of storage, so unfortunately you can only store so much with it, but you do have some options. So here is one place that you're now going to be able to distribute and share and be able to have tutorials for the students to come to.
As we begin looking at that idea of the students working within content with videos at home, we have to start thinking of learning management tools that help them demonstrate their understanding or help you as the teacher drive your instruction. So how do we incorporate effective scaffolding activities into the lecture at home itself? One way is to develop questionnaires within Excel survey. And we did discuss Excel survey last month, but just that idea that I want you to take another look at what it is. For this purpose, students are using it in order to pinpoint areas of need, to as the teacher as well, you're coming in and now you can collect info on areas that students are struggling. Possibly if you're looking at any questions or what interests them within the content itself, it's a starting point for your class activities, as well as the ability to produce richer in-class discussions based on the information that's coming in. Really, in the end, what you see down below, one side on the left, you see that there's just what the Excel survey would look like when the students opened it up on the web. A few simple questions, nothing too extensive, just enough for you to drive your instruction and activities in the following lesson or the following day. On the right-hand side, you're just seeing a collection of the information coming in. So every time they submit, it's collected into an Excel survey like this, and you're able to really filter and understand it. We're going to go into Excel survey and see what that looks like to create it, and just how we can pick apart and analyze student work. Oh, for some reason it went into the wrong one there. Just going to come out for a second. A little glitch in our tech here. There we go. Just to get a quick glimpse at what it looks like within Excel Online. When creating a survey, we go into our DP Cloud and we see that we have Excel Online. This is where you can create the surveys. When I click on there, I can go into a new blank workbook. And then it gives me options up at the top, this toolbar here. The only one that I'm going to need in order to create my survey is Insert. You see the word survey here. I'm going to click on it, and it's going to ask me if I want to create a new survey. I'm going to click on it. Here at the top, it's going to ask me for a title, so whatever it may be that you're teaching. Whoops. And then a sub one, maybe you're working on your first video of your screencast and a description of what it is or what expectation you may be looking for after the video is done. So the questions, when you type, you can have an unlimited amount, and it gives you a few different options of what that may look like. You can have a simple text question, and you still have the ability to have the main question with a subtitle, hints, and you can choose here whether to make it a text, a paragraph text, yes or no, a choice. So there's a few different options that you can create. But when thinking about the screencast, if you just want them to get an understanding of what it is that they know, you're probably just going to only do a few, because you don't want to make it too tedious. You want them to be able to watch the video and then really just demonstrate what they understand, what kind of stuff confuses them, maybe some simple content questions just to be sure that they watched it and understand it. But other than that, so you're probably looking at the idea of text, paragraph text, maybe some choice. So always, I generally, when I'm working with the courses, their first name. Most likely, if you're teaching different courses, I might have them explain what course, like the course name that they're in, and then possibly that idea of the section itself that they're in, depending if you teach the same course, same grade, and then different sections itself. You want to know which one it is you're picking up and looking at. So there's that, and remember, there is this idea here that says required question. They can be asked to work, so they have to answer the question before they can actually submit it. So you know that everything that you is mandatory, that you want them to be able to do after watching that video. Make sure that you require it to make sure that it is required. When you're done that, you can save and just view what it would look like. So it gives you a sense of what it's going to look like to the student when they come in. They're just going to see this page on the web. When you want to share it, it'll open up with a link. The one thing about this link is the Microsoft links are quite long. So what I do generally is I copy it I right-click, copy it, and I open up a new tab. In the new tab, I go to a URL shortener page, and the one that I use is bit.do. There are different ones out there. And I just then paste that link in there. And you can see that it is quite long. You can see that is something that the students are not going to want to type in on their own, but you can customize the link, right? So bio 2, and then you can choose to shorten it. Oh, it's too short. Whatever it may be. I would make it something specific to maybe the class, the section, or the date that you're putting it in. So the one thing about it that it does do is it gives you a shortened, you can personalize it, and it also gives you a QR code. So if they have a QR code, they can just then scan the QR code and go right into answering the question. So it depends who you're designing for, but that is one great way that you can get them in there without them having to really type in anything. So using bit.do in order to take this big long URL and shorten it to something more manageable for your students. When moving back into here, I just want to give you the idea. I want to open up the questionnaire that I actually did for the class, for just the example itself. So you can see I've asked for their first name, I've asked for their course code, and I've asked, are there any questions that are confusing, anything surprising and interesting? Just something simple so that I know they've watched it. And if they're having some trouble, I can know it before I come in the next day, and something that they're picking up on. So if I'm designing a lesson, I may base it on some of their interests and then work around the confusion from there. So it could leave some of my, drive my instruction and how I may design those engaging lessons when we come back. So I'm just going to edit here online, and I want you to be able to see that there are arrows here. So when I press down on the arrows, it tells me that I can filter. If I want, and I just want to look at what Jane is saying, I'll take up all the filters for the other people and press OK, and then I can specifically just look at Jane's question. It tells me that this is filtered here. However, I'm going to come back and I select all. If I want to just look at those in the A section, so I have multiple sections coming in, I have the exact same questionnaire set out to the students, but I want to filter that, and I want to take a look. Oh, I went into the wrong one. Sorry. I'm going into the section. I want to filter it and just look at those in the A section. And I can just click off A section, and then only those students' answers within the A section, Jane and John, are going to come up. So it gives you a little bit more of an idea that you can filter it according to student section, you can filter it according to question, and just look at the questions themselves. So if you just want to pull them up and then go through the questions and get a quick glimpse of what the answers were that way, you can do that. So the idea behind the questionnaire is that you want to have your screencast, and then you want to have something for the students to demonstrate that they've been able to interact with the content and understand it a little bit. So it holds them accountable and also allows them to regulate their own learning and manage what they understand. So they're self-reflecting on what they're listening to as they're gathering the content itself. So it's just a way for you to understand, and I'm just coming back into the presentation itself here, some different ways to organize the learning. So now we're taking a look at developing the screencast with EduCreations, as well as using Excel survey as a learning management tool. Another way to be able to organize is within Office 365 sites. So if you want to put everything into one spot, your videos and your discussion and folders, shared folders among the class, then you can do that within Office 365. Let me make sure here. There we go. Students to work within the flipped classroom when they're managing content at home is to create a site within Office 365. I'm just going to go over just a little bit of review of what that looks like, but not fully go into it. I just want to show you the possibilities of what it does look like. I'm just going to go into a site that's already designed just for you to get an idea. So what we can see here is that there are links that are already placed up above. So there's a few links that send them off to different technologies that the students can use in order to enhance their learning. So a lot of these here have to do with assessment or collaboration. Along the side, it might take them to their notebook or documents or a calendar of when things are due. One of the great things when you're connecting to the idea of the flipped classroom is the ability to embed a video. So you can embed your edu creations into here so students can just go directly to your site and click on the video that they need. You have a discussion forum already in place here that the students can go in and ask questions, make suggestions, have anything that they may be struggling or something that piques their interest, especially if they start knowing that if the teacher knows what interests them and is guiding the activities based on that, they may be more willing to go in and say what did interest them when it comes to the content or how they might see it connected to real life and real world issues that they'd like to engage with in. The other great thing about this is the ability to have the documents. The documents here, you can attach additional readings, as well as a place that students can then have a file folder where they can upload reflections. So you don't necessarily need that Excel survey where you could just have little reflection pieces that are based on the video that they're watching at that time. So here is one place that you could have the video placed in, a discussion feed, as well as some sort of reflection tool when they are at home. So they can then take this information, which can then be brought up in class and engage with this with the activities that they work on when they come back to class. When creating a site, just going to come back to the sites icon. You go into this little gear feature here. This gear feature and site contents, and you create a new subsite. You may title, oops, thought I was doing it. And then you can give it, so you can have your course and then maybe your section. You could then personalize the site or just write in. Usually people just write in what their course is. And with the flipped learning, we're going to choose that team site. If you wish to control the permissions and lock it down and make it private, you want to choose unique permissions. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I just want to give you that idea that if you do want to look at every aspect of your page, the unique permissions allows you to decide who exactly can edit, who can exactly just look into the page or come in, and you can invite the group of students that need to actually be working within the course. So you could really personalize your website at that point. When you do create it, oops, sorry, put this in with my course. And it just begins to create it for you. Really, in the end, when you go to create the site, you have to make it what you want to make it. So you'll see that along the side as it comes up that it has different editing links. And here I can see that I can edit the links along here. If I want to add different hyperlinks, maybe I'm taking them to different YouTube links, maybe I'm taking them to a Padlet or an Excel survey. I can add those links along here. The news feed in the documents function is already placed within here. And if you add the new, you can see that you can automatically, again, add in the Excel survey, a OneNote notebook, so your PowerPoints, and a Word documents, and you can even create new folders just with this little plus button. And if you want to go in and add in extra apps, then you can do so right here. So you can really see that it creates it almost automatically for you, and then you go in and you just have these little editing tools. And with this, what's your style, you're able to then work around with the theme itself. So it's quite simple. You just take some time to go in, and that's something that once you might do after you get kind of a handle on what that looks like and how the students are responding to the idea of the flipped classroom, first of all, and how you're feeling as a teacher with it. But this is a one-stop shop where you can go in and have your videos and your discussion and the learning management tools that you need in order to drive the action when they come back to the classroom. So as we're looking in that idea of we're heading back into the classroom, we have our information and content organized, a place for them to chat, whether it be on the sites or building their knowledge within the questionnaire. But now we come back in and the teacher is a coach and is beginning to facilitate the activities that are happening within the classroom.
I'm Aaron Sams, and I teach science here at Woodland Park High School. My ultimate goal, I guess, as a teacher is to help students become learners who can learn for themselves and by themselves. One of the problems that I was guilty of, even prior to flipping my classroom around, was the classroom was centered around me. I told them exactly what to learn, how to learn it, what assignments to do to learn it, and when to learn it, and how to prove to me that they learned it. I don't do that anymore. We changed the place in which content is delivered. Instead of standing in front of a class and delivering, here's how you do this type of problem, here's how this works, I deliver that direct instruction now asynchronously at home through these videos that we make with Camtasia Studio. Kids come to class, they don't show up to learn new stuff, they show up to apply the things that they learn at home and to ask me questions about the things they learned at home. So now they can have my lesson, if you will, what I would normally have stood up and lectured to them in class and some added features, they get that at home. Then what they were expected to do for homework is now what they do in my class. Life is different for me because I no longer am the guy who stands up in the front of the classroom and just yaks at a student for an hour or however long the class is. Now I walk around the class and I help kids. I'm a tutor, I'm a guide, I'm the putter outer of fires, whatever it happens to be in my crazy chemistry class. I walk around and do that. I don't stand up front and teach under the kind of the traditional model. I'm Aaron Sams.
So as we bring them into the classroom, we want to begin thinking of our students as reflective, holistic learners. So we're also picking up on that CGE, where we're creating and giving them the opportunity, the chance to reflect on the learning. And we're also focusing on higher level cognitive activities. So now the great thing about the flipped classroom was that we now have additional in-class time that could be used for hands-on, authentic learning experiences. Just to quickly touch upon a couple of tools. I'm not going to go into them. Last month, we focused on assessment, and we talked about Kahoot and Nearpod. And when you think about the classroom and the students coming in and engaging with it, for Kahoot, it's that idea of a game-based tool where they can come in, you can review the content they watched on the video, you could possibly drive some discussion, stop through the questions and have discussions about it, get a chance to see what they are struggling on, and pick a focus together of what you're going to build your activity on. With Nearpod, they can come in, you could still embed the video itself into the Nearpod, but even if you don't, you have the chance to enable, you can build activities into the class. With the slide features, they could be figuring out and solving problems and uploading it and sharing it, consolidating with the class that way. So there's a lot of different features in Nearpod that can really create engagement with the activity itself. If you're not sure of these two tools, please go back to our YouTube channel, DPCD SB Chats, and you'll be able to get a sense, and we go into each one thoroughly, how to use it and some examples of what that looks like when it comes to assessment. When thinking of the flipped classroom and within the departments, so we're looking at our secondary students, you're knowing that they're watching the video and dealing with the content. So now in foreign language classes, they can now come in and increase their conversation, write stories, read the literature, and really target that language itself. When we think of the idea of math, being able to focus on the content at home or the skill, they now can come in and form a deeper understanding of the concept itself. They can use math manipulatives and emerging technologies in order to dive deeper into the problem that they're focusing on. When we think of the idea of the science classroom, if they're learning the content beforehand and coming in, they're able to engage within inquiry-based activities, and they're able to conduct in-depth laboratory experiments. Within the humanities classroom, we're going to have more time to initialize the idea of analysis, debate, speeches, being able to analyze their peers' writing, Really what you're seeing in this is we're using our class time to engage. The students are actively involved and trying to figure out what to do with the content and how that relates to real life. With physical education, and we saw that when we were looking at edu creations, they can look at the skill or the drill or the rules of a game and be able to increase the physical activity and the time they use to play. They can bring in technologies into the gym itself and be able to review the skill if they're not really sure of it, or if they already are quite gifted in that area, they're able to then go and challenge themselves in that activity. So if they already know the drill, they can push themselves further. So we see that we're able to differentiate. Working with the art and music teachers, the students can look and learn and practice that technique and skill, but then bring it back into the classroom now where they're really having an enhanced time to practice it, but have the coaching that comes along with it. Having the teacher and their peers be able to critique and work through the skill that they're centering on. So it's that idea that we're working as a community in order to achieve our full potential as learners. One of the main things that we're looking at with the flipped classroom is the mastery of content. We want to give students the ability to work at their own pace, their own learning style, and really to understand the content before they move on. So if you're flipping the classroom, you're giving them that chance in order to fully understand and have the ability to have the coaching or the peer review that's needed to understand the concept.
I'm Jonathan Bergman, and I work at Woodland Park High School. And there was kind of a moment, a revelational moment, when at the end of the year, my kids do a big final project. One of the pieces of the final project is a interview. So I interview them and ask them key conceptual questions about what they were supposed to have learned during the course of the year. And some kids, more kids than I was happy with, didn't really get it. It's like, where have you been for the past 9 months? If you don't understand this, you really haven't almost been in my class. And they had been, so it was disturbing. That's kind of what made me think there's got to be a new way. Well, we went to a mastery system where students, when they get to the end of a unit, they have to master the content. So when they completely passed the objectives, they have to meet a minimum requirement, which is 75%. So when they meet that minimum requirement, they can move on. If they don't, then they have to go back and do what they don't do. So that's sort of assured that they've actually learned it. So the big thing has been the mastery, but the recordings have been huge because it frees me up to walk around and interact with kids. The surprises that we've had that have been really amazing is that I can differentiate for all learners. And what that means is that if I've got a kid who is a rocket scientist, I can challenge him in this mastery system. And I've got a kid who really struggles with my content, I can challenge him. In the old system, I had to kind of shoot for the middle. Now I can actually have all the levels shot. Every kid kind of gets a different education, and I think that's okay. My name is Jonathan Bergman.
So reviewing that idea, I just want you to look at the whole concept now. We want our students to explore the concept with video lectures, audio lectures, and the ability to possibly chat with one another about it or develop questionnaires to manage their learning at home. Whether it be at home or the transition into the classroom, we want them to experience the content, whether it be with games and simulations or experiments or community projects that they are involved within. The most important part about the flipped classroom overall is making the meaning out of what they are learning. So it's all about the action when they get back into the class. What is going on? They're diving deeper into their discussions. They're debating. They're building inquiries based on the content that they're watching at home. They're having more time for peer review and teacher conferencing, and more time to really reflect upon what it is that they are doing. When you think overall, what happens now? We've had our content. We've been able to have the action within the classroom. Well, now it's getting the students to demonstrate and apply what they know, whether that be on a unit level or whether that be at the end of an entire course. So it all depends on how you're managing it. I know within secondary, you're working on your CPTs, so they could be working on something that they could building a creative, personalized project or presentation that really speaks to what they've learned throughout the course itself. But this could be something done on a small level as well. It doesn't have to be that whole end creation piece. It should be something creative that demonstrates they understand the content that they learned in the video. Remember that what you really want to do, I'm going to come back to you, is to start small. I'm going to find my way to you. So really what you want to do is be able to start small. Thinking if you're beginning, try designing a video, maybe one per unit. If you're not ready to start fully, and I wouldn't suggest that anyway, you want to lead your students into that. So see how your students respond, try a questionnaire, try changing and flipping your classroom so that they're coming with the content and engaging with the content, and see how the students respond to that. And really get a sense of how their learning is, and you possibly may pick up on different things about your students within that environment and how they do learn. Remember, if you get a chance, please go back to the link and answer the exit ticket, and it's above the video. So wherever you linked in for the channel, there's a link for the exit ticket. So just go in there. It's only a few questions just to help us drive our instruction when we're here on Digital Thursdays. And remember, we're here on Tech Tuesdays and we're here on Digital Thursdays. So if you need to come in and ask a question, please do. We're here to help. Hopefully you were able to pick up on a few tidbits or something useful to drive within your own classroom instruction. Thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you on Tech Tuesday. Take care.